Courtside Moms. I'm your host, Wendy Sparks. Today's episode is with Michelle Riddick, the mother of Damion Lee of the Golden State Warriors. So sit back and listen up as she tells their story.
I do it naturally. I do it naturally, baby. Baby.
Thank you, Michelle, so much for coming on Courtside Moms and for wanting to share both your and Damion's road to professional basketball. So tell me, when and where did Damion's basketball journey begin?
Well, that's interesting. I'll tell you, Damion's basketball journey, when he was little, Damion actually played basketball. You know, like, we're from Long Island originally. So there you play multiple sports. So he played basketball when he was like 8 or 9, but it's more like in like a youth league. It wasn't really serious. So I signed him to play basketball, but he really played football. That was his serious sport. So from the age of 5 to 14, he played football, organized football, and he was really good at football. So I always thought he would be a football player. If anyone had told me that my son was going to go to college on a basketball scholarship at an early age, I would have been like, nah, that's not happening. He's probably going to be a football player because he was really good at football. So by the time we moved to Maryland, so he moved to Maryland when he was about 11 turning 12. So that's going into 6th grade. He started playing basketball more and still played at the YMCA. But once he turned 13, he actually joined the AAU team. So that's when he started playing more on a serious level. So he joined the AAU team at 13. And then he started playing basketball seriously. So I would say probably 13, because before there was more just like play. Like you learn to play basketball, you play with groups, with youth groups, you do organized games, but it's not really serious. So when he came here to Maryland, kids here, they take basketball seriously. They've been playing since they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Right.
So he was kind of a late bloomer.
So he said that you are the one who taught him how to shoot a basketball and that you are his biggest influence. So tell me, Mom, did you used to play ball?
I played volleyball, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Awesome.
I did.
Athletic family. All right.
Yes,
So-
I did. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
No, I was gonna say I didn't play basketball. When I was in school, we had an English teacher. His name was Mr. Gill, and he wanted me to play basketball because back then I'm 5'8". Back then that was considered tall, in the 80s. So he asked me if I would play basketball, and I said, okay, I'll play for 1 week. He begged me, just try out for 1 week. I said, okay, I'll try out for 1 week. He said, if you don't like it, then you don't have to play anymore. So I played for 1 week. I didn't like it because I don't like people sweating on me. So I didn't do well with basketball because, basketball, they sweat and it was just too much for me. And then their body odors. So basketball and I didn't work out, but I played volleyball. So I taught Damion how to play because that little bit of time that I played basketball, I learned how to shoot. So I knew how to shoot the basketball.
Okay. So
I
he
would
can
take
literally
Damion-
say, that's funny.
He
So he can say, I got it from my mama. All right.
He can, because I would actually take him to the YMCA and I would teach him how to shoot basketball.
Okay. So tell us, what was Damion like as a child?
Oh wow, Damion. Damion as a child. Damion was clumsy. No. To be truthfully honest, Damion was clumsy as a child. That was one thing he was. He was a sweet boy. He was a very sweet boy. Very he had compassion. He still does. Very caring, sensitive, also stubborn. He wanted things his way, and very loving. Yeah, I would say he had very good qualities. And he was competitive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he mentioned that his family is very important to him, and he references you, of course, his aunts, cousins, and his grandparents. So, in which way do you feel that your family life contributed to his off the court and then on the court?
I think the cohesiveness, the closeness of us as a family contributed to it. He learned how to love. He learned to, he was nurtured,
Mhm.
um, and he learned how to depend on people from having a close family. He knew no matter what happened when he was playing, um, and whatever happened in life, that we're always going to be there for each other.
Right.
Because even now, so like my sister is actually his godmother. He also my best friend is his godmother too. But when he was christened, he had two godmothers, my sister and my best friend Vanessa. So he's just always learned the value of family. So he knows that someone's always going to be there to hold him accountable as well. Tell him when he's right, when he's wrong, hold him up when he needs it. So pick him up, care for him,
Right.
and then he knows that he can trust you. So if something's going wrong in his life and he needs to talk to someone, he knows he has someone there to trust and to talk to.
Yes. Right.
Um, my dad and him were very close. Now I've been a nurse for 27 years now, and there were times I had to work on the weekend and my mother wasn't available to watch him, and my dad would take him for me on the weekends.
Mhm.
And he would spend time with my father, and they were close, and they had that special bond that they had. And unfortunately, my dad passed away when in 2003. So Damien was 10, turning 11 that August of 2003. And then my son had a close relationship with my mother. My mother kind of became his confidant as he was growing up. And unfortunately, my mom passed away in 2011.
Okay. So, what morals did you implement in your son when he was a young and impressionable teenage boy?
The morals would be just to be really a good person,
Mhm.
and to do the right thing. So if you do
Yes.
something wrong, I've always stressed to him, you have to be accountable. And when
Mhm.
something happens and you do something wrong, you have to admit it, whether you like it or not. So one thing I've always I say expressed to him, and we've always had conversations about, a man is only as good as his word. And my dad always taught us that. So he's like, it doesn't matter who you are and who you're with. If someone tells you something and then they don't do what they said they're going to do, then it's hard to trust them.
Right.
It's hard to trust and it's hard to believe them. And another thing is, as a man, you have to look another man in their eye. So I've always taught Damien, you have to look someone in the eye, whether you're right or wrong. And I remember there was a time, Damien was in ninth grade, and he got in trouble. He did something so silly, and it was three of them. And the detention counselor said, out of all the young men, there was, like I said, three boys got in trouble. He said, out of all the young men, he said Damien looked him in his eye when they had the conversation, and he
Yeah.
apologized. And he said he appreciated that because he can tell Damien was being sincere
Yeah. It was
by
honest.
looking, yeah, by looking him in the eye. And that's something that's important. So, and I think that's sometimes that's missing in this world because we're so quick to blame someone else
That's right.
or to not take ownership for what we do.
Mhm.
And it doesn't help you because you're never going to learn. You don't learn from your mistakes if you
Yeah.
don't own up to them.
Yeah. It's very important. As I speak with many moms and players, basketball seemed to be a release or an out from many life issues. How do you think Damien views the sport that he is now professionally playing?
I think he loves the sport, and I know for him, like when my mom passed away, I know that was an out for him. And out, I know it was a release. It was a way for him just to get away. It was his sanctuary
Mhm.
because at the time when my mom passed away, it was during the time we were trying to figure out where he was going to go to school, and
Mhm.
he didn't actually commit yet. And she literally, no, she didn't. She passed away in the day he had a tournament.
Oh,
So I had to go. My mom passed away that morning, and I had to go to the game. And the game happened to be in New York City, and we lived in Long Island. We're from Long Island, so I was home in Long Island. And he had a game in New York City, and I went there, and I went to the game, sat through the whole game. He had no idea that his grandmother, my mother, had just passed away. And after the game, I had to tell him. So he then had to use that as, as his escape from reality,
Mhm.
while he dealt with his grandmother, passing away. So I know it's his refuge. It's a place where he just, sometimes life isn't going well. It's just a place he can be. They can just get away from the realities of the world.
Even for you as a mom, I mean, you just lost your mom that same morning, and here you're sitting at a basketball court supporting your son. I mean, that is so touching to hear. I can't even imagine that.
You'd be amazed at what you can do for the love of your child, because
Yeah.
I knew if I wasn't there at that game, and I was a few minutes late, and my best friend who was there with her husband and a couple of coaches that were there, they were like, Damien's looking for you. And then once I got there, he looked up and he was like, okay, he was calm because I was there. It's like, I was
Yeah,
wondering where you were. But it's like, and my mom was in hospice at that time. Um, so it's like, but it's like, what you have to do for your child.
that's right.
So you pull it all together. You do what, well, like any mother would. You do what you
Absolutely.
have to do for your child at that moment in time. And for
Yeah,
those 2 hours when he was playing the game in basketball, even like you said, for me, it was a time and it was like, okay, he's playing basketball. So my mind was focused on him.
right,
Yeah.
right. So he went to Calvert High School College, and then he went to St. Thomas More. So let's talk about the schools then.
Yes. Calvert High School.
Mhm.
Want to talk about Calvert Hall first? We love Calvert Hall.
Mm.
Yes. Calvert Hall was a great high school. So Damien's story about going to Calvert Hall and going to St. Thomas More. So Damien went to Calvert Hall and he graduated from Calvert Hall. The reason why Damien went to St. Thomas More Prep School is he had signed a letter to go to Towson, and this is a funny, well, it's not a funny story, but it's kind of a funny story. It's funny to me sometimes. Damien Damien signed a letter of commitment to go to Towson University. My son signed his letter when he was 16 or 17. He had just turned 17. 17, yeah. So Damien graduated high school at 17. He has a late birthday.
Okay.
So he signed the letter to go to school. So it gets closer and closer. And at the time he signed the letter, he was, I want to go. And I was like, I don't really think you should sign this letter. And he was just so adamant about it. And I'm like, I don't really think it's a good, decision. But like I told you, there's times he's stubborn.
Yeah.
He was stubborn and he wanted to sign it. But I did read the letter close enough. And now the NCAA, now something it's in the letter that it doesn't apply. There's one little piece that doesn't apply anymore. But it says if you're not accepted into the school, basically you can get out of your letter of intent, right?
Right.
So he signed the letter, and I was like, well, they're never going to get his information because he's not going to, basically, we're not going to apply to the school. So I'm like, this boy is like, I really don't think this is a good idea. It's the only school that had offered him a scholarship. So all his friends had signed letters, and he felt like basically, he wanted to go there. So as time went on, I was like, do you really want to go there? He's like, I don't really want to go there, Ma. I don't know where I want to go to school. And then, time kept going on. And then the coach was going to get fired from that school, the head coach. So as time went on, it was like, this is not a good scenario. So I had conversations with other people. And I never forget, I had a conversation with one of his AU coaches. And his AU coach said something to me that really made a lot of sense. I said, well, Damien signed this letter to go. We haven't filled out the application process. So technically, we can still get out this letter of intent for him to go to the college. And as we had the conversation, he said to me, Michelle, I don't think Damien's ready to go to school. I think he's going to get lost. And I said, well, how's he going to get lost? He's going to know where the classes are. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to have a schedule. We all been to college. They tell you how to get around the campus. And I'm like, how's he
Yeah.
going to get lost? He looked at me, he goes, no, Michelle, I don't think he's going to get lost. Physically, I think mentally he's not ready. He needs another year. He's like, he's a really smart kid, and we know academically he's good because my son's grades were fine to get in college. They're like, it's a maturity level thing. He's 17 and a half. He needs that extra year. He should probably go to prep school. So I thought about it and I was like, I don't know. And I thought about it some more, had a little more conversation with some other people. And we were like, okay, so that's how we want to be at St. Thomas More. We looked at some prep schools, had a couple of conversations. We wound up talking to Coach Quinn, who's at St. Thomas More. It was
Mhm.
a great fit for Damion. Like we said, it wasn't academics. He was academically eligible to go to any college he wanted to. His SAT scores were fine. He had over 3.0 grade point average. It was the fact that was he going to mentally be able to do what needed to be done to be a Division I college athlete?
Right.
He wasn't there mentally. So when he got to St. Thomas More, it was a blessing. He would get up and they told him what he could like how the Coach Moore told him how everything was structured. And it was
Mhm.
up to Damion to decide. Coach Jerry's like, how it's structured. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. And Damion decided he was going to do the voluntary work at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was going to do this. He was going to do that. He was going to do everything that was voluntary. And that's what he did. And it made him such a better, it improved his basketball game, but it made him a better student. So when he went to college, it was just easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense, right? Because you have to be there mentally first to understand where you're going.
Right.
Um, so later he committed to Drexel University. Describe that process behind choosing that school.
All right, the process behind choosing Drexel was interesting because he had at that time he had several schools that had wanted him. I think we counted like we had several schools that had wanted him at that point, and
Mhm.
then he narrowed it down to three. So his final three were LaSalle, Northeastern, and Drexel. So LaSalle's in Philly, just like Drexel, and then Northeastern's in Boston.
Yeah.
So he didn't exactly know because he had decided that at this point he had more information, and he had decided he wanted to go to a school that was in a small city. The year before, he had no idea he wanted to go to school, where he wanted to go to school. He didn't know what kind of community he wanted to be in, what he wanted his next 4 years to look like. Now he had more information. He was ready to make that decision on what he wanted his college years to look like,
Right.
which is something, you know, we need to think about as parents when we're deciding what we want to do with our children.
Mhm.
So he had more information. He knew what he wanted. So he decided between these three. And what made him pick Drexel overall was when the coach that was there, which was James Bruiser, they call him Coach Brew. He's now at Indiana as an assistant coach. Coach Brew told him, I tell all my students this, whether they're going to play in the league, they're going to play basketball, they're going to graduate and then want to go to grad school. Be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Mhm.
So he's like, even when it comes time to go to grad school, if you know you want to go to grad school, don't get all C's. You need to get B's. So when it comes time to go to grad school, you don't have to take anything over again. You're ready. He
Wow.
also didn't promise my son anything. He told him you had to work for everything you're going to get here.
Mhm. Amen.
So, and that to us was good. You didn't have to promise him anything. He was going to have to work for what he had, and that was important to us.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, and I don't want to be, I don't want to say in a way that would offend anyone. He was a strong black man,
Amen.
and I was like, okay, I like Brew.
Yeah.
He was going to tell you like it was, and you liked it or you didn't.
Yeah.
So those are the, huh?
That's what our young black boys need.
Yeah. And
Right.
at that point, in my life, in that point in my son's life, he needed somebody to tell him like it was and like
Yeah.
it is. So that's what he needed at that point, and we went with that because that was the best situation for him. It was in a small city. Someone was going to tell him like it was. They weren't going to promise him a daggone thing because other schools had promised him, "You're going to start. We're going to start you in the lineup. We're going to do this." Now he did want him starting all 4 years, but he was never promised to start all 4 years. He had to work his way to start.
Mhm.
But other people were promising him out the gate. And Damien said to me, "Ma, I don't deserve anything to start. I haven't proved myself anywhere. So how can these coaches be telling me I'm going to start and I haven't done anything?"
Wow.
Yeah.
And that goes to the values that he was instilled by his family, which is
Right.
why I had asked you earlier about the influence that your parents had on him, as well as the aunts and the cousins. You know what I mean? He realized that
Right.
They're going to give it to me. I have to earn like everybody else. And good for him because that speaks to who he is today, right?
Yeah, because we believe in hard work. Nothing comes easy. You have to work hard for it.
Yeah. You know what? If it comes too easy, sometimes we just don't appreciate it the way we would as, you know what I mean, if we had to work and grind for it.
It's so true.
So Drexel University, he was freshman at his freshman year, he was the CAA Rookie of the Year. And then
Yes.
by his third season, he tore his ACL. So he had to sit out the rest of the year and redshirt actually his junior year.
Yes.
I can only imagine his disappointment of not being able to play. I mean, you get this hungry, hungry player, right? So, what did he do to keep busy during these games that he couldn't play?
During these games, well, I tell you, I will tell you this real quick, just to toot his horn real quick. He was also All American as a freshman, but
Amen.
yes, and he was the All Tournament. But anyway, um, but to keep it's funny to keep busy in the beginning when he first tore his ACL. Oh my goodness, it was like first you had the rehab period because he didn't just tear his ACL, he tore his MCL too.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's 6 weeks of no weight bearing. So
mhm.
that was just a nightmare in itself. So that was horrible. And you have the surgery, you do the rehab, and then he sat on the bench and he just began to basically soak up everything that was going on. He was like another coach on the bench. He soaked up every single thing. He's calling out plays on the bench. He's talking it like he's in the huddle, like what? Like he's just soaking up every single thing that's going on. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like he would he would talk to me about, so you see what they did, Mom? They should have ran. I'm like, wow. So he said to me, he's like, I'm taking this time now. That was after, after you get over the initial shock, the hurt, the sadness, the
Yeah.
depression, everything that came with it, then he's like, all right, I got to figure out what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna, make the best of it, which is just learn as much of the game as I possibly can while I'm going through this.
Right.
And that's what he did. He just learned the game.
You never know. Maybe he'll be his future career after the NBA. Maybe he'll be coaching a team. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. He was also during his playing time and non-playing time, he's also all academic
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
child as well.
So he graduated from Drexel and
Yes.
he still had 1 year of eligibility left. So he went to University of Louisville. And at that time, according to ESPN, he was considered to be the top transfer in college basketball. So why Louisville? And how did that school change his life?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you, all right. So during that time, um, if you go between ESPN and it was another Bleach Report, I think the other one, if I'm not mistaken, I remember exactly the other ones. Between my son and Sterling Gibb, who would be the 1 and 2 top transfers in the country during that time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And why do you pick Louisville? It's funny because I've been through the whole with my son, we've been through the whole recruiting gamut from someone not being wanted, as far as like not no one recruiting you to being like having a somewhat being recruited to being sought after by every single college in the United States. At Division 1, should I say. Um, so when it came time to pick, it was like overwhelming. And we really had to weed out where was the best place to go. So he narrowed it down to 5. And my memory serves me correct. It was Maryland, Arizona, I want to say Marquette,
Mhm.
Louisville, and Gonzaga. Yep, it was those. So Louisville wound up winning out. First of all, you have Coach Rick Pitino, who is a Hall of Fame coach. And then his coaching staff, he had a very good coaching staff.
Mhm.
So we looked at all of that. Louisville's rich in tradition. It's a good school. And Louisville in general is just really, once you get to go there, it's just a nice place.
Right.
When we went for our visit, we did visit Arizona, and I enjoyed our visit to Arizona. He had visited Marquette without me. And we did visit to Arizona, and I did like Arizona. We did the visit to Louisville, and I just can't. I just fell in love with Louisville when I went there. It was like the people, they love their sports, and they love their basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like I've never seen before. They love their sport, especially when you come from a place like come from a place like New York, where I do, where there's so many professional teams, and then he's playing in Philly, where there's six Division I schools in there, plus their professional teams. So you go to a place where Louisville, where there's no professional teams in Kentucky, not one. So then Louisville is Louisville, that's it, and then University of Kentucky. So that state is Kentucky basketball, Louisville basketball, Kentucky football, Louisville football. The sports wise, as far as that goes. So it's just a place like none other. And the people are so kind and loving when it comes to like the way they embrace their athletes.
Yeah.
And I say, and the coaching staff is just so wonderful. And then so I just can't even express like the feeling that we had when we got there. So it was kind of like a no-brainer, really.
It's funny you say that because you're reminding me of when my son and I had to choose schools as well, and he
Hmm.
went to New Mexico, Florida, and then UNLV.
Right.
And I didn't go to the New Mexico or the Florida ones. And he kept
Hmm.
calling me, "This is where I'm going. I love it. I love it. I love it." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "I'm going to meet you in Vegas." And I met him in
Right.
Vegas. And within 10 minutes of the visit, we were like, "This is it." And
Right.
it's funny you say that because Vegas, like Louisville, there is no professional sports. So
Hmm.
the players are treated there like, I mean, like pros already. And here they're NCAA players, right? So the love that they got. Like, and I felt that when I was there. So you're just reminding me of our visits too.
Right.
So now, Louisville, he was their top scorer, and the team ranked as the 13th best team in the country. But then things went sour when there was this ongoing sex scandal involving recruits between 2010 and 14. So, what was your reaction when you heard this story?
I mean, my reaction when I initially heard it was like, huh?
Yeah.
Like anybody's reaction was like, disbelief, and I still don't have all the information, exactly what went on and didn't because my son was not there during that time. So we didn't come till 2015.
Right.
So, it's I really don't know because like I said, we weren't there for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's one of them situations where we didn't get all the information about what happened during the time that was there because we weren't there. As far as what happened with our team, what happened. I wish things would have been differently. I wish their team would have got a chance to play in the tournament. I wish they would have
Yeah.
had a chance to, but it didn't happen that way. So you have to live with what happened because there is no what ifs
Yeah.
because what happened
Right.
and the sanctions that the self-imposed bans that they gave themselves is what they did. So it's just what we live with,
Yeah.
you
That's
know.
true.
Yeah, I mean, I think the saddest part of it all was that the team was doing so well,
Yeah.
and they just beat number one. They literally had just beat number one North Carolina, like on that Monday or Tuesday. I think it was a Monday night game, and I was actually there for that Monday night game. And they had just beat the number one team in the country, which was North Carolina, at home. And then a couple of days later, this happened. So it's heartbreaking. It really is. And it was hard. It was hard as a mother. But I'm going to tell you what was harder for me as a mother. Like that was hard as a mother to go through that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that was harder for me was to hear people that would say negative stuff in regards to my son and the other transfer student that was there, Trey Lewis, that would make comments like, well, that's what because the two people that would transfer was my son and Trey Lewis, and they didn't get to make the tournament. And even worse than them being the self ban was when people in the media would make comments like, "Well, good for them, they shouldn't have transferred." And it's like these are two
Mm.
kids, these are two
Yeah.
children at the end of the day. They made the decision to transfer like any children make or any young adults make the decision to transfer. They did what they were supposed to do. Both of them, like Trey transferred and he graduated. My son did what he's supposed to do. He went to college for 4 years. His obligation was to go to Drexel for 4 years, which he completed his obligation. He graduated. Now he decides to do something else. It's the same way as if a coach decides to take another job. So for people then to feel like it's okay for you to say, good for him, that's what he gets for transferring. I was like, that's just uncalled for because you're adults. You've
Yeah.
lived your life. You made your decision. He's a child.
People are cruel.
Yeah, to me that was more hurtful than the self-imposed ban. I'm like, because he'll be okay because everything happens for a reason. It's like Romans 8:28 says, all things, work for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So we're gonna
Mhm.
be okay because we're God's children. He's gonna take care of us.
Right.
But we don't have to throw stones at the children at the same time and make comments like that about the kids. That's just uncalled for. So I would say that was probably more hurtful than even the whole ban at the end of the day, because as mothers, when you hear people say negative stuff about your children, no, we can't go around and, you know, um, rebuke everything somebody says, go around and be like, why'd you say that about my kid? But
I
at the
know.
same time, you're like, why'd you say that about my kid? Like, what's that really called for?
Sometimes you gotta hold it back a bit, eh?
Right, exactly. I mean, we have to hold it back because because we're not going to go around defending them constantly. But you do look at it sometimes, like because I know Wendy. Sometimes you'd be like,
Yep.
really, did you have to say that? Like, what's that
Yeah.
even call for?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, you didn't even know what you're talking about when you said that.
You know, sometimes you're on social media and you see somebody say something about your child, you know what I
Right,
mean? Sometimes I see it when they talk about Cam and I just want to respond. And I'm like, oh, I can't. You know what I mean? I can't
right.
respond. But I want to, but
But and my thing is, it's one thing when a troll says something, that's fine. But it's another thing when like you're a professional and you say something. It's kind of
yeah, yeah,
like when the talking heads say stuff, it's like because my thing is like when they're children, they're children. When they're professional athletes, it's different. But when they're still in college, they're still amateurs.
yeah,
Let's let them be children.
yeah. They're
That's
not
all.
ready yet. Yeah, they're not ready for
Yeah,
adulthood yet, although they think they are, but they're not.
right.
So
But they're not.
anyway, you
But
know what?
yeah, they're
People are
not.
gonna say words and you know what I mean? The sticks and the stones are gonna come and they hurt even when we're adults, right? So
Right, right. And as adults, I think we're more equipped to handle it. It's
absolutely.
yeah, it's when they're younger. It's like let's let them be. They're still in college, even though they're 22, 23. Just let them be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're getting closer to draft time. So, what were your and Damien's thoughts at that point about his chances to make it to the league, and how did you guys prepare?
Well, I'll be honest. At this point, we knew kind of like the thought was if Damien had played in the tournament, I think it would have been a different scenario as far as draft night because he'd had a better chance to showcase himself. Because we all know how most of the time our draft goes, and poor kids are missing out on it this year because there was no March Madness.
Right.
But a lot of times you get to play in March Madness, you do well in March Madness. A lot of times it helps your stock for draft.
That's right.
Unfortunately, with our situation, because of that, there was no way to help his stock for draft. I mean, he had played well, he had a good season. We were pretty sure he wasn't going to get drafted. And we were
Okay.
okay with that. We were okay with that. We knew what was going to happen. So, what we decided to do is I said to him, since we know you're not going to get drafted, let's just have a party. So, what we're going to do is have a get together and we're going to celebrate you. So, the get together we had was a celebration for all his friends and his family and our friends and family who have supported us over the past, X amount of years we've been down here in Maryland. So we moved to Maryland in 2004.
Okay.
So we started this basketball scene though in 2006. So it was based everyone has been around us since 2006. Who's been in the basketball circle with us, who has supported him in some way or not. Some were AAU coaches. His high school coach came, his high school coach at his wedding. We're still friendly with him. Everyone is just, has just shared love. So that's what we did. We had a get together and we watched the draft. It was a really nice get together. We had it at this place over in it's in Maryland. You wouldn't know where it was, so I'll tell you.
No, I wouldn't. So I'll just say, oh, okay.
Be like, girl, we had it at this place in Maryland. You'd be like, okay.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Thanks. Yeah.
you'd be like, okay, I believe you. Look, I believe you. So we had this place. It was called. So what I did is I sent out these invitations, and what I said is, let's celebrate Damien on the invitations. And we had this place called 5485. It's in like in the DoubleTree in Columbia. They have like like a reception like bar area, and they had this private room. So we had hand hors d'oeuvres that were served, and they had a TV in one area, and then we had the whole bar, the like cocktail bar area part, and that, and we just hung out in both areas, and we had it from 6:30 till the end, and everyone just hung out. And I had the invitation had a big basketball on it, and it just said, "Let's celebrate Damien," and that's what we did. And everyone came out.
That is such a fantastic way to celebrate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
His trainer he had when he was 14 years old came out, 14, 15. Everyone just came out and just had a good time. Because Damien's a kid that he played freshman basketball at freshman. He couldn't dribble. He played JV as a sophomore. He didn't play varsity until he was a junior in high school.
Right.
Yeah. He was the kid who couldn't dribble the ball. You know what I'm saying? So he's come a long way.
Come on, Mom. You taught him how to shoot. You didn't show him how to dribble.
I tried. He refused. This is what Damion would tell me. He'll tell you if you ever hear him in an interview, because he does talk about this. He likes to say, my mother would tell me to dribble the ball, and I would swear to her, I'm going to be a big man. And I'm like, Damion, you're not going to be 6'10". Trust me, you're not going to be that tall. So he would constantly think he didn't have to dribble the ball.
It's like playing netball. So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was good that he was already in that mindset, like your whole family. You knew that he wasn't going to get drafted, but he played in the summer league.
Yes.
So how did that come about? He played with the Miami Heat in the summer league. How did that happen?
Well, he already had an agent because he already went out and he did the workouts like they all do.
Okay.
They get their agents and then they do the workout. So he had worked out for several teams, but we kind of knew even from the teams he worked out that it was a long shot. He was asking to get drafted, but we had an idea he was going to play in summer league. Someone was going to pick him up for a summer league. So he got picked up. He had a couple teams that wanted him for summer league, and he wound up going with Miami. So he went with Miami, and I think one of the team had wanted him, but he wound up going to Miami, and he played there. And I went to summer league. Yeah, I went to summer league. It was good. Yeah, so that's how that happened. And then they cut him because they didn't want him for the team. They didn't want him for the team.
Yes, he didn't make the roster then.
He didn't make the roster. No, he made the roster.
But that's okay. And then he signed with the Celtics, and they waived him too. And then they put him on their
G League.
I guess G League now. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, it's the D League. You're right back then.
But then, while he was playing for the Maine Red Claws, he tore his other ACL. Good Lord. I mean, this was his second tear, and on the other side. So at this point, like, how did he handle this injury?
Well, this injury, the second time around, was more devastating because he was literally 2 weeks away from 10-day call-ups.
Yeah.
And he was averaging like 16 points. He was doing really good. And his agent was like, it's coming close. He's getting ready to get calls. Like they were noticing him. He was doing really well. And what happens? He tears his ACL. That one, and even if you talk to him about it, he's like, this was harder than the first one.
Yeah.
And there was times we talked about it and it was harder. I know when it happened, we talked before he had to wait like 2 weeks to have the surgery. We had to decide where we had to figure out where we're going to have the surgery at too. Because I remember he's no longer in college. So you have to decide where you have the surgery at, where you not. If you do it in Boston or you do it up there, who's going to help you because you're in the G League, right?
Right.
So you don't really have a house, apartment. You're staying in a hotel. So we had to figure that out as well. So he wound up, where do you go? And that's why it's important to have a good college town to figure out what you're going to do, right?
Right.
So where did we go? We went back to Louisville.
Oh.
We went back to the L. Yes. We went back to U of L. Yes.
Well,
And yes, and Dr. Ellis did his surgery. We called him. We talked to Coach. We talked to Coach Patino, and
mhm,
Damion had a nice conversation with him.
mhm.
And we talked to some other people, and then because he wanted some recommendations,
Right.
and he winded up going. He went back to Louisville, and we went to Louisville, and I was there with him the day of surgery. And then Sidel, who was at that time his girlfriend, wound up being his fiance, is now his wife. She came the week later, and I took care of him the first week. She was still in college, and she took care of him the second week.
It's good that he had that care and that love, right?
Yeah. And let me tell you, and the physical therapy department was great there where he went to go get his PT. They even did they made a shadow box for him when he was done with physical therapy. And they put on the back of it, Damion, we have all the faith in the world in you, and we know that you will continue to succeed in life and do great things in the NBA. Best of luck.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yes.
So,
Yes, so that was wonderful. So like I said, he got through the second one. It was rough, but he got through it.
listen, that child of yours is full of perseverance, right?
Yes. Well, in college, why he didn't finish out when he was at Drexel, right? So
Mhm.
his last year at Drexel, he didn't play in the tournament, like their last CAA tournament, because he broke his hand. So he broke his hand when they were playing against Northeastern, and he broke his hand in the first part of the game. And he continued playing the game. He scored 30 points with a broken hand.
Wow.
But he broke that same hand again this year, in November during the season.
Michelle,
That's why he didn't play for 3 weeks.
what are we gonna do with your
I thought
child?
you didn't know that part. Well, go carry on with your mouth. But he's fine now. But he didn't require surgery this time. He required surgery before he went to Louisville. He required surgery. That was
Okay.
in April. That was in before we were looking at schools. He required surgery. That was in March of 2015, and everybody still wanted him. They knew he broke his hand. They didn't care.
Of course, because he has a talent. I mean,
Yeah.
he's so good at what he does, and you know what? You look at his stories, and it's like he's very inspirational because he has this love for the sport, and
And
he's like under the
perseverance.
yeah. And you look at these players that go through all these trials, and you're like, why? Why? I mean, it makes you stronger, but sometimes it's like it's so unnecessary. And here you have this person who broken hand, two tore ACLs, and look where he's at.
Yeah.
So I know he later signed a 10-day contract with the Atlanta Hawks,
Yes.
and then they later signed him for the remainder of the season. So what was that like for him when he's like, I'm finally on an NBA team, not the G League?
That was unreal because he had, like I said, he came back from the ACL and he wound up signing. So when he came up from the ACL, they traded him they did like a 3-way trade thing, and he wound up going to the Santa Cruz Warriors. So he went out to Cali, and someone else went to the Maine Red Claws. So he played there, and then they called him. Like I said, Atlanta called him. So when Atlanta called him, he was ecstatic. First of all, he didn't get the phone call at first because he was sleeping. So his agent called him again. So he got the phone call, and he called me all excited. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I remember the first game he watched on TV, and he actually played, and we couldn't believe it. It was unreal. And I think it might have been his second game. His soon to be, at that time, it was his soon to be father-in-law, but Dell actually called the game. So that was so cool.
Yeah.
But we were excited for him. I got to actually go down there and see the game. So for a 4-day weekend. That was Easter of 2018. And went down to Atlanta and got to see him play. So I was excited to actually see your child play his first NBA. And it was actually their home game. So it was excited to see your child play his first NBA home game. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so unreal.
That's the best feeling ever.
It is. Because, to see your, you know how it is, Wendy, to see your children, to see their dreams come true. So that's just like, So he was so, he was so happy. He was so excited. It was a great, a great moment for him.
It is, and it's a great moment for us too as moms, eh? I mean,
Yes.
I remember when I went to Cam's game
Uh-huh.
with the Magic, and you would have thought that I was a groupie. I was sitting there on the chair, like, oh my God, it's my son. And they're looking at me like, okay. So
Right.
I was like all over the place. Like he would get up and I'm standing there and I'm clapping. I'm like, oh my gosh. Then he was like, sit down, mom. He's like, really, woman? I'm like, I'm so happy for you. So yeah, it's quite the feeling. You know what I mean? I remember sitting there watching him watch Jordan, you know what I mean, play on TV. I mean, who would have thought
Right.
that, you know what I mean, years later, I'm going to be watching the same sport, the same league, and my child is playing? Like, never.
Right. Right. And you're watching your kids. So it's like unbelievable.
It was football, just like Damion, all football. So,
Right.
so look, they have a lot of similarities. We're gonna have to introduce them. Let me tell you, your story
I
is so
think
much like
Damien
him.
knows, I think Damien said he knows Ken.
There you go. And they even have, like you said, the same middle name. So
I
there
know.
you go.
I know. Isn't that crazy? I know. That's
So,
the funny part. They have the same middle name too.
yeah.
Yes.
So moving forward to the Golden State Warriors. He signed first a two-way contract with them. Then he returns back to Santa Cruz. And then finally, now he has a multi-year contract, Mom. Your
Yes.
baby patiently waited for this moment. How do you feel about this long overdue contract?
Well, I will tell you, I am super excited for him. I will tell you, real quick before we get into that, he wrote after the whole thing of going to Atlanta. He kind of summarized his whole situation with the ACL, getting the call to Atlanta. Basically, he summarized his whole situation from November 13th, the first ACL tear on. He wrote an article for the Players Tribune called "No White Flags." If you guys get a chance to check it out,
Yeah.
or the audience gets a chance to check it out, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good article. He just kind of talks about the perseverance, about having perseverance. But to answer your question, I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
I feel ecstatic. I am so thankful. I'm thankful. I'm thankful to God that this day has come. I'm happy for him and all the hard work that he's put in. And to me, it's just a testament that, you know what, if you put in hard work, you persevere, you never give up, and you believe. Because a
Yeah.
lot of this at the end of the day is you got to have faith. You got to keep believing. See, when people tell you you're no good, you're not going to make it, you don't have the skill set, you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, you can't shoot, you can't run, whatever people tell you. I mean, it could be anything in
Mhm.
life that you can do it. You really can. Just keep working, keep pushing. And it doesn't really matter what people say. You have to believe in yourself because that's the most important thing. I mean, there
Yeah.
were times in this journey when they had offered, said, let's go to G League. He got offers to go play overseas. And I remember we offered to play overseas, and he said he wanted to play here.
Right.
He said, no, I'm playing the G League because he goes, I believe I can play in the NBA. I'm going to play in the G League so people can keep seeing me. I'm going to stay here. And I remember somebody said to me, who's been around a long time, he says, Damien has these offers. He can play overseas and make a lot of money. But you know what? I'm going to stick by him. You know why? Because he believes in himself. And he's
Right.
betting on him. He said,
Yep.
Damien's betting on him. He's betting on himself. So if he's going to bet on himself, I'm going to bet with him. So if he
Wow.
believes in himself, then I'm going to believe with him. So, and that's the whole thing. He believes in himself.
So important.
And and you just have to believe in yourself. So I'm just so thankful at the end of the day. I can't even really put in the words just how thankful and grateful and just blessed we are, because at the end of the day, our children get to play a sport that they love.
Yeah.
And I've always told Damien, even when he was going to college and picking out what he wanted to do, like his major, and I was like, pick something that you love. So it feels like you're never working a day in your life.
Yeah. I watched an interview. I mean, speaking of faith,
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that he believes in faith. And then he explains that faith is believing in something that you cannot physically see. And to me, that is such a great mindset to have. You know what I mean? Like he was saying, no, I believe in Damien. And like you said, it's so important, because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to go as far. You know what I mean? If you don't really believe in yourself, it doesn't make sense when others are rooting for you and you're just being there. You're just there. You know what I mean? Just shy, or just, yeah, it could happen. Where he's like, no, I'm going to be in the NBA. I'm not going to Russia. I'm staying right here, and I'm going to
Right.
get to the league. And that's where he is now. So good for him. Like
Right.
he faced so many difficult challenges throughout his basketball career, going all the way back to college, but he still pressed forward. He fought very hard to where he is today, and it's obvious to me that his persistence and his determination comes from you. So let's talk about your experience living through the injuries and the constant cuts and the trades. Like, what kind of emotions have you experienced?
Well, I'll tell you, some of the things with the injuries, it's kind of like, I think sometimes, like when he first was injured, I think I just went into nurse mode. I really do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hate to say it. I go into like, all right, what we have to do? All right, let's do it. You know what we have to do to get you better. Come on, come on. Let's go into push mode.
Yep.
Got surgery lined up. After surgery, we got rehab. After this, you got to ice it. After this, you got to, And I think sometimes I go into like boom, 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 boom. And then after a while, it gets to be like, it hits you. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. What is actually going on here? And it's emotional.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's emotionally draining. It really is.
Yeah. When you come down to earth, and you see it, you're like,
Yes.
wait a minute, like I'm actually living through this, but sometimes adrenaline takes in and we don't even see it. We're just moving.
It is, because I remember when he first tore his ACL, and I'll never forget this. And this is a prayer I don't normally. This is a prayer I don't pray. I did not pray normally, and I can't remember really praying it after that. I remember we was at my sister's house in Long Island. This is when he first tore his ACL. My son always wanted to play in Madison Square Garden, and I remember him being 4 years old. I took him to see University of Pitt play St. John's. They were playing at Madison Square Garden. And so they take the thing, they put the decal on for this. I think it was called St. John Red Storm back then, not the Red Men or whatever. So they take the decal off the middle of the Madison Square Garden, off the logo, the middle of the thing.
Yeah.
They take it off, and he looked at me. He goes, "Mommy, I knew we were here. I knew we were at the Garden. I knew this is where the Knicks play." And I was like, "Yeah, we're here." He was so excited, right?
Wow. Yeah.
He goes, "Can I touch the court?" And I was like, and the security guard is standing like right there. And I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Can I touch it?" And the security guard looks, he goes, "Yeah, he can touch it." And he shook his head and said, "Yeah, he can touch it." So Damion runs over and he touches the little, touches the Knicks logo and runs back,
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I touched it. And then the security guard goes, "Maybe you'll play here one day."
Wow.
I said, "You might." So
Yeah.
we played NIT, and we wound up playing against Rutgers at Rutgers. They win, and the next game is at Madison Square Garden. I said, "Oh my gosh, Damon, you're going to play at Madison Square Garden. You were 4 when you said this." And now it's 19. I mean, that was 2000 and what, 13? You said this at 4, right?
Yep.
So you're going to play at the Garden. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at my sister's house in Long Island, getting ready to go to the game, wait for my sister to get home. And we had to go stop at my aunt's house and then go to the game. I kneel down on my sister's couch and I pray. And I don't know what made me say this, but I prayed, "Lord, draw Damien closer to you." I don't know why I prayed that prayer. It's a prayer I don't normally pray, whatever. I usually just say, "God, let him have a good game. Let everybody be, safe, da, da, da." I prayed that prayer. He tore his ACL at night. I said, "God, that's not what I meant."
You're not listening.
I was like, that is not what I meant. I don't know why he chose that to happen. But I thought to myself later on, now, God, that's not what I meant when I said, "Draw him closer to you from tears ACL." And Damion was playing they was playing at that time. I don't know if they were like the fourth team or the number 1 team in the country, but they were up. They were winning. Drexel was winning. Damion got hurt and they wound up losing, but they possibly would have won and upset them. Like they were playing that good. Damion was on a great trajectory. He was playing really well. Like everything was lined up for him.
Right.
And I was like, oh goodness, what happened?
But he still got to play there. Like you know what I mean? When he was 4, he touched it and said, I want to play here.
Right,
You know
right,
I mean?
right. He still got, yes.
He still got to do it. So
he did.
He quoted and referring to you. He said, if you knew everything that she did for me, you would want her as your mom too. She is literally my everything. To me, this speaks to a son's undying love and appreciation for his mama. Would you like to talk about the sacrifices you had to make along the way for him?
I guess Damon refers to, okay, so growing up, once he moved to Maryland, Damon asked when we moved here. I moved to Maryland, a couple of my girlfriends had moved here. And he says to me, I guess this is a sacrifice, and this might sound crazy when you hear it. So I'm going to tell you, and some people might be like, "You did what for him, for your kid?" So I moved to. I had a house built. I had a colonial house built when I moved to Maryland, right?
Right.
So you have this home built, and my mom can't. My mom winds up coming like a year later. She had my father already passed away, and we have this house built. I had this house built, and had an in-law suite in the basement for my mom to live in. So we're there like a good 2 years solid. Then it's time for Damien to go to high school. Well, Damien had went to middle school at like these like little middle school camps, and they were held at the community college. And this community college out where we were in Cecil County in Maryland, people go to Cecil County to this community college, and he wound up sending kids to Division I schools after that, like to you name the top schools. Like it was almost like a funnel. Like he had kids that couldn't get into schools, maybe with the grades, the SAT scores, whatever. But he had a great program. They wound up going to like nice schools after they got done. You know, you go 2 year schools, and after that, you wind up going to 4 year college. I had to go to community college, right? So Damien would go to camp there. He's like, I see something in Damien. He's like, but if he goes to school here in Cecil County, he becomes a small fish in a big pond. I'm sorry, a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
That might not be good. He might want to go to school out in Baltimore where he can, be with other kids, and I would like his chance to get like a scholarship, to play basketball. So I was like, all right. So I wind up basically leaving the home that I built and renting the house out. And we go rent another house out. We go rent an apartment out, like in an apartment community. And it was always a nice apartment community. We never lived anywhere bad. We'd always lived like in a luxury apartment community or something like that. But I would rent out the home that I custom built. That I picked out the bathrooms. I picked out the floor. Like I picked out the floor, my hardwood floors. I picked out my granite countertops. I picked out every piece of that house that I wanted to be. And while Damien was in high school, we lived somewhere else, not in that house. But it wasn't the whole time he was in high school, because the first 2 years of high school, I drove back and forth. So the first 2 years, I left my job, which was in Delaware, which was closer to where we actually were, which is like 20 minutes from the house. I left my job and I took a job out in Baltimore because it was close to where he was going to go to school at. So I took a job working GI, which is going to be Monday through Friday, so I could drive him back and forth to school. So I sacrificed and got a different job so I could take him back and forth to school every day. Then there were days I would take him to school. I have to wait, do practice, whatever. My mom went and left the house that we were in and got a place out here in Baltimore so we could stay with her sometimes when we didn't feel like driving home or when I had to be on call.
Yeah.
Because there were times I had to be on call. And then I would drive back and forth. He'd get up at 5:30, leave the house by 6:15, 6:15, take him to school and then go to work. And I would come pick him up and then go back home. So that's what I mean by sacrifice. And I would drive him an hour. We drive like an hour and a half one way every day. So that went on for 2 years.
Wow.
So that was from 9th and 10th grade. And then 10th and 11th grade, I left the house that I built to go live in an apartment somewhere. Like I said, we never lived anywhere bad in an apartment. We did like a luxury apartment, a nice place or whatever. First place he moved when he first moved out was like it was like a townhome, it was like it was like apartment place that had like a 2 story. It's not like a town, it was had 2 stories to it, so it had stairs to go up. Because I
Yeah.
always wanted him to be comfortable. But I'm renting out the house that I built us to live in Maryland, so he can go to school, so he can be closer to his friends in school. Because at this point now you're in 11th grade, you're 12th grade. So that's what he means. He's like, I made sacrifices for him. I made the
Wow.
sacrifice of commuting, and then at one point I made sacrifices moving.
Wow. You know what? Sometimes we gotta do what we gotta do. It's just a house, right?
Right. So people may be like, I have friends that were like, you are crazy. You leaving your house so your son could go to school where?
Yes.
First they used to be like, you're driving up and down the street. So your son, I was like, yeah, well, you gotta do what you
Yes.
gotta do. Then other
Yes.
people was like, I said, I can't do this commute anymore. And now, like, once they start becoming like 15, 16, or 11th grade, they want to go to parties, they want to hang out with their friends. I'm like, I have to move closer because
Yeah.
you just can't do well, I'm going to drive an hour and then wait 3 hours for him to come out of a party. We got to get closer so he can do more stuff with his friends.
Right. Right.
And I was like, I remember what high school was like. I had a very active life in high school, social life. I don't want to deprive him of having an active social life because he lives so far away from his friends. So I was like, I'll just move so he can be closer.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And then eventually I just sold my house actually. Then eventually I was like, then it came to the point after a while, I was like, well, I moved back home. After my mom passed away, I moved back there for about 3 years. And then 2015, I moved from there for good. And I rented it out and I just sold it. I just sold it in February.
Oh, okay.
Yes, after 16 years, I just sold it in February. So I moved back from about 2012 to 2015, and then I sold it. Yeah.
It's clear who was Damien's biggest supporter through it all, but who was yours?
I would say my family really.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I would say my mom when she was alive. I would say my sister. I would say my sister's a big supporter. She does help me through a lot. And then I have friends who are very supportive. I have good girlfriends who are really supportive. Yeah.
Listen, that helps a lot, man.
Yeah, and I have friends that are non-basketball friends,
Right.
like
Right.
non-basketball moms who have girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are really supportive.
We got to watch our circles, right? So it's
Yeah.
good that you can have friends that are non-basketball that are really friends, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And not just the friends that come over when, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause, yeah, they exist. So,
they do. They
so
do.
if you had to look back in time, what do you wish you had known then about the ins and outs of becoming a professional basketball player?
Hmm. See, with my situation, I'm going to say, I'm thinking back when we were first getting into this, finding an agent. I did have people around me though.
Good. Good
I,
for
I
you.
was fortunate enough to. I was fortunate enough, because I remember when agents first started to approach us. I remember reaching out to people to ask questions, and I have to say I've been very blessed to have a core group of people around me,
Right.
and a core group of gentlemen that I trust
Right. Right.
that have I've been able to, even when we were going through I'm going to say this, even when we were going through looking for schools, even looking for grad schools,
Hmm.
I've had a few. I'm going to say like they said, like the movie, a few good men.
Yep.
I've had a few good men that I have in my corner that have been able to help me navigate the situation.
Right. Right.
And the thing about the men that have been in my corner, they've been there to help and guide me.
Mhm.
And I've been able to trust them because no one wants anything.
Yeah.
And I know they don't want anything. So like I've been fortunate enough. I thank God for that. I thank God that I've been fortunate enough to have them there when it came time to look for an agent. And when it came time to ask questions about stuff, have I been
Mhm.
burned about stuff? Yeah, we all been burned about stuff.
Of course.
We've
Of
all
course.
made mistakes. We've all been
Yeah.
like, yo,
Yeah.
and they're like, so because you should have did so and so first before you did that. So I mean, so we've all had issues where it's been like, I should have went to you first before I did X,
Right.
Y, and Z. But I usually reach out because you'd be amazed, and I've been amazed how small the world really is.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
everybody knows somebody in some way,
That's so true. That is so true.
Yeah, and everybody's connected in some way.
Mm.
So I would say getting into this as a mother. So as a mother, once you get into this whole thing, like you said, it'd be nice to have something set up where you're able to sit down like a mom 101,
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
mom 101 class.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey,
That would be
that's
nice.
actually a good thing. We need to talk about that later.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
think yeah, I
offline,
think
we
a
gotta talk
mom
about
10
that.
definitely. And I think
Yeah.
the mom 101 class, and I've shared this I've had this conversation before with someone, just like a just general conversation, but it was like a mom 101 where you literally have the conversation and say, all right, your kids in the G League, this is what you do. Your kids in the NBA, not so much as what
Mhm.
you do, but this is what happens. So you're kind of prepared to be like, this is what happens to your kids in the NBA, this is what happens to your kids in the G League. Like I said, I happen to be in a good situation when it comes to that. Like I have a mentor for my kid being in the league.
Okay.
I mean, I have Sonia, and she's been a blessing to me. So if I have a question, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
She's been in the
Yes.
game over 30 years.
Yes.
So so I'm blessed in that way because when I do have a question, I ask her because a lot of stuff I don't know. I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
What happens in the G League? What happens when you go away? Because there's stuff that they don't tell you.
Why
They
would we
don't.
know?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
they don't always give you the information. So you got to ask somebody like, what happens when this is in this scenario? What do I do?
Right.
So you have to reach out and ask somebody. So I reach out and ask, so who do I contact for this? You know, what do I do for this? So
Yeah.
I'm blessed in that way. Like even like an all-star thing, I have to ask her like, what do I ask somebody for this for?
Yeah.
Because I don't know who to ask.
Sometimes, yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say that sometimes you just don't know who to ask, and that's a bad predicament to be in because then you sort of have to trust the people that are giving you that little bit of information, right?
Right. And that's why you say like it would be nice if they had like a mom 101. And I kind of thought there might have been one. I mean, that
Like,
might be naive
we'll have to
to say.
create it then, Michelle.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I honestly think that would be like a great idea to create a mom 101. So I would say that's probably the one thing if you ask for anything that we could have or that would have been nice to have is a mom 101 just to be like, hey everybody, a quick reference guide to say these are the people to call if you need this, if you need that, if you need help with so and so, then
Right.
we can kind of help you with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic idea. So, tell me about your foundation, the Leeway Foundation. What does it stand for, and what is its purpose?
Right. Well, the Leeway Foundation, it's funny because now I wanted to start a nonprofit back when I was like 19 years old. I always wanted to start a nonprofit, thought about it. And then, things happen and you just don't do it. So years go by and my son is at Louisville. He's in grad school, preparing to go to the draft at this point. He's at some events. Actually, that's some fundraise events during the Kentucky Derby during that time. And he was interested in actually doing some things with youth because he cares about the youth as well. And he's like, I want to start a nonprofit. And I'm like, really? And I was like, well, that's something I always wanted to do. So it's amazing. Like, I've had a heart for children, and my son has a heart for children. So we decided we are going to start a nonprofit together. So in our nonprofit, like our focus expands beyond basketball. We use basketball as a tool to engage children. So we want to make a positive impact on children's lives no matter where they are. So we're trying to help them navigate whatever things that they're going through in life. So a lot of times you use the sport to get the young people engaged. So they see that he's a basketball player. And that's something that is like, oh wow, that's amazing to them, or they want to know how to become good at this. And then once they see that, then they begin to have a conversation with him and they see he's deeper, like it's more than just being a basketball player.
Yeah.
So for instance, the thing we did in Oakland, and he also spoke to some kids in Baltimore back in April, towards the end of April. So what we did in Oakland in May for Mental Health Month is he talks to children, he explains to them like, things happened to him when he was a children as well. So it kind of helps to peel back the onion, the layers of an onion, and he pulls back the layers of his life and then shows the children like someone believed in me. That's
Right.
why I am who I am. So the goal is to have young people realize like all you need is someone to believe in you. And statistics show, because our target group is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Like that's our target group. And we will follow some children as they go on, to graduate high school and go to college. But that's the age we target, because it shows if someone just believes in that child during that time, one person, then you'd be amazed how it'll change them to do something else, to be positive, if someone believes in them in a positive way.
Mm.
Because what happens is kids are so used to someone telling them something negative, and that's all they hear, and then they start to believe what they're hearing. So they need someone to speak a positive word into them, to breathe life into them. So with Damion, he just enjoys spending time with the youth. He enjoys speaking with them. He enjoys telling them about his personal experience, and he enjoys giving back.
It's so beautiful what you're doing. I mean, you're giving these children hope. And it's a platform for them to realize if you work hard, anything is possible. So many kids don't know that. They don't understand when they see a professional athlete in front of them. They don't understand that, this person was once like them, just a normal child, and running on the street and hanging out, with their friends and doing normal stuff. They just took it to a different level. And a lot of people just don't get that they're just human, and you can do it too if you work hard. I mean, nothing is usually given to you, so work hard and do what you have to do. So platforms like what you're doing is perfect because you're giving people hope. So for me, I just say a big congratulations on your not-for-profit. It's for me, I love not-for-profits. They're so meaningful.
Yes, because I agree with what you're saying, because it's all about creating the nurturing environment.
Mhm.
Because we're not saying to everyone you need to be an athlete. We're saying whatever you want to do, be the best at it.
Right.
So if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a school teacher, if you want to be a welder, because school is not for everyone, and that's something we have to realize as well. Someone may not want to go to college. They may want to do a trade. But be the best at whatever it is that you want to be and have confidence in yourself. So how do we build our young people when sometimes they're being when they're being torn down at home, or they're being torn down by their peers, they're being bullied? How do we help them? How do we teach our kids the basic things that sometimes they're not getting? You'd be amazed at things that young people just don't know that we take for granted because we were taught that in the house. Someone taught us that. Someone taught us something in the home. We know what to do when we get out in public, and they don't know what to do. It's just many things that I think young people need that we don't realize. And sometimes it's not even about throwing money at them. It's really about investing time.
That's right.
And you'd be amazed how you spend an hour with a young person, and how that hour means a lot. Or you sow some seed, like some words into them.
That's right.
We had a conversation with a young lady the other day, and I told her a story about something that happened to me when I was in 7th grade, and it resonated with her. And she was like, wow. So you don't know how something that happened with you may help somebody else. So,
That's right. That's right.
it's all about giving back, because I think all of us have a story to tell. None of us have lived like this perfect life.
That's right.
We've all made mistakes.
Amen. And we have to learn from our mistakes, right? And that can only make us stronger and better people.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Wendy. Totally agree with you.
So if people want to learn more about the L.e.e. Foundation, where should they go?
They can go to our website
Mhm.
at the.leewayfoundation.com. And then you'll see, like on the L.e.e. Foundation, you'll see we have a logo. It's black and it's in white lettering. And then you'll see a whole bunch of children. Then you're in our foundation. There is one that is just another foundation. It's Arts Foundation. So you have to make sure you put the leewayfoundation.com so you get to ours.
Perfect.
And not to the other one.
Oh, perfect. And we will definitely post that for you so that people can be directed to the right foundation.
Right.
Listen, it's good to always give back, especially where, to the locations or to the people that were good to you, right? And people that helped you get to where you are. I find giving back is so important. So that
Yes.
is that is fantastic advice. Really it is. And I thank you so much for coming on Courtside Moms. You're fantastic. It was a great informative interview and it was fun.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for everything. It was a wonderful conversation. I totally enjoyed it.
And we will definitely do this again.
Yes, definitely, definitely. You be blessed.
You too.